Here is Riot at the Ocala Jockey Club 3-day event, and he is performing the CCI 4-star test ride. The test ride is actually not really counted. It is performed to kind of get the judges warmed up and kind of on the same page for when they start the competition. So it was a great opportunity for me to get Riot out and actually practice this test. This is a level above what he's been competing at, or was competing at, before his injury. So we will be moving up to this level. So it was a really fantastic opportunity to get him back out. And he hadn't been back out in the ring in a year. So it's kind of marked the day from when he injured his front leg right after he did his final gallop before this event last year. So it was really great to kind of have him out. So we came in, cantered and halted, which is fairly decent, and across the diagonal did a medium, and now we are in our shoulder in to our half pass. The shoulder ends can be a little bit on the shallow side, so it's always something for me to work on with him, and his half pass was fairly correct. Now we cross the diagonal into our extended trot, which is probably one of his favorite things to do. And he is coming from behind, really free through the shoulder. And I want to make sure that I show the transition back at K. And now we come into our halt. It's pretty square, but I probably should have waited 1 second because he stepped a little out behind. And it's always kind of a work in process for him to get him to step underneath and not just push out behind because he's so powerful. So in our second shoulder in, the angle was a little bit better, but then here I had to correct him to get a correct bend through the rib cage for the half pass to the left. The half passes have been a little bit on the weak side for him, so I've taken the time to spend this whole year kind of really working on getting him to do those correctly and getting him to build up muscles over his back. So it's been a really good opportunity to kind of work on some of the things that he's had a weakness in. And now coming into our walk, he can tend to get a little bit off the bit. So you see he kind of curls. For our extended walk here, they would like to see him take the bit and really stretch out through the neck. So again, that's something I have to work on. But overall, I'm really happy so far with his rideability, considering he's dealing with a fairly decent atmosphere and he really just has a good head on his shoulders. Now preparing for a walk transition to canter. I want to make sure I have him straight through the shoulder so I can get my canter half pass. I could have a little bit more bend through the rib cage, but all in all, I was fairly happy with how correct he was. And he's such a lovely horse to ride because he's very uphill. And now we're coming in on our serpentine here. And we have to prepare for a flying lead change. So you'll see I'm going to position him a little bit. It was a little sticky, but overall it was correct and uphill. Those two have been something we have been working on. So again, this will be the level he's moving up to. He had been competing at the 3-star level before his injury. Now I did a medium, extended to B, and then it's a half 20-meter medium canter, which can be a hard movement to kind of show the difference with the horses. And then we come back to a collected canter. Again, I'm going down the center line, preparing for the half pass. Want to make sure you have your shoulder 4, and then to get the bend through the rib cage. He's getting there. I have all winter to keep on improving. And now we work in our counter canter. Serpentine. I want to make sure I keep the energy in the jump in the canter. And now preparing for the flying change. I probably could have helped him out a little bit better here. I really didn't get the canter I wanted, and so that meant that I was late behind. We want to see the hind leg and front leg change at the same time. And I was so excited that I got the changes done that I actually went off course, going down the center line to do my final halt. But in fact, I needed to finish out the extended canters in medium. So this is a good practice, get my head back in the game a little bit. So back to the extended. Now for that error, you'll get a 2-point deduction on the movement. So, but that's fine. You just keep on moving on. It's just one movement. Now I get them back to the collected canter, and now I turn down the center line. And then making sure I have him underneath me, trying to get the halt. You see, he got a little crooked, a little stepped out behind, but overall I was really pleased with him. He's such a professional and he's really fun to ride. And I wanted to make sure that even though his injury was pretty much minor, I wanted to make sure I spent this year of getting him really fit and strong. And so now we finally get to go out and do the fun stuff. And I'm really excited to see what our 2020 season looks like. So here we are at the Ocala Jockey Club at my dad's barn, and I'm able to do a good little jump school with him. So I've been slowly progressing with him in the jumping. So kind of when you're bringing a horse back, you don't want to head right back into jumping the big stuff. So you have to do it gradual. To Riot's kind of dismay, he loves to jump the big jumps. So here we had some of our jumps put up a little higher. They range from anywhere from 3.3 to 3.6 on this little course. And I'm just working on his adjustability. And you can see, even though he's such a big horse, it's really easy for him to kind of get right underneath the jumps, and he can take the long spots or the deep spots. He's really a fun horse because of how adjustable he is. So I came back through that triple combination, which was a little bit better, a little bit more fluid. And now I'm going to work on coming up the last line, which is kind of a forward 5 stride to a combination. And you can see he's able to open a stride, but then adjust and jump to the shorter distance. And then I'm going to bring him back for this vertical, and he jumps it great. Really pleased with him. I also had the opportunity to ride in the Lucinda Green Clinic. If anyone knows Lucinda Green, she is a legend in her own right. She has won 6 badmintons, and she is really amazing person to learn from. So I thought it would be a great opportunity to get Riot out and knock off some cobwebs. This is his first cross-country school since last year, and he really felt great and eager to the task. He honestly felt so happy to be back out there. So Lucinda has us practicing some kind of footwork exercises. You'll see us do the turns and working on some angles. We drop down here to a 3 stride, which is a little bit on the gappy side, but he's such an athletic horse that it's well within his scope. And now we're going to do this angled 3 stride turn up to the bank. And he does a really good job because I kind of came in a little hot to it, but I'm able to soften to him and get him to turn up the bank, and he reads it quite nicely. And then we jump a little coupe and then a right hand turn. So rideability really is what we're working on. And it was just really fun to feel him really start to sharpen up and practicing him opening up. And then I'm going to use my voice to get him to come back here for this up bank combination to this log. And again, riding with Lucinda, you really don't worry too much about striding. It's all about your horse's footwork and making sure they're adjustable and can answer those questions. So really get them to thinking with their feet. You want the rideability, obviously. So here working on this turn to the up bank. And he did that really well. And we also got to play around with kind of putting more jumps together. It can be a little bit hard in a schooling scenario to replicate kind of what happens when you're out on cross country, because it's really not the same. You have a certain amount of adrenaline. as well as your horse. So when you're schooling, it can be a little tricky to kind of work on certain things that may arise when you're doing your competition cross country. So for this clinic, we were putting together several jumps so we could practice getting the horses in a rhythm, really working on maintaining that balance. So when you're in your gallop, you don't really have to adjust too much, and the horses can jump directly out of stride, meaning that it's very smooth coming to the jump, and it really doesn't need any change in the canter or the gallop. So now heading to what's called the coffin, which was a jump, and then you had a ditch, and then to another jump. And he kind of really pinged over the ditch. Saw me kind of almost pop out of the tack. But I really felt him sharpening up through this whole schooling exercises. And he was feeling really good. He also loves to go through water. So now we head to this island jump where, again, balance is super important. And the fact that he stays really uphill allows me to just keep riding him, and I like to stay behind him. So even coming to that roll top, I thought we might add a little padded step, another half stride, but he left it out, and that was fine because I stayed behind him and I was able to follow. And you want to make sure you never really jump ahead with your shoulders. That's when you can put your horses out of balance. So, and again, probably one of the hardest things about Riot is jumping the small jumps because he just canters over them. And so now I do another left-handed circle, and I come back to the island jump. And again, having the balance so they can just step up there. He steps over it lovely. So really excited to have my Riot back and gearing up for 2020.